On today's episode of Locked On Stars, I'm joined by the man who gets the people going inside of the American Airlines Center. Tune in for a great conversation between myself and the one and only Jeff Kovarsky, better known as Jeff K to the Dallas Stars faithful. Hear about his journey to the point of being the PA announcer for the Dallas Stars, as well as just some insight on his special position of covering the team. All of this and more on today's Locked On Stars.
Your Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Stars podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. I want to take a moment and just encourage you to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast at, whether that's the audio version or on YouTube as well. Thank you for your continued support of the show and making Locked On Stars your first listen of the day. As I said at the top of the show, I'm joined by the voice of the Dallas Stars inside of the American Airlines Center. If you've ever gone to a Stars game in person, you've heard his voice. You know how he energizes the crowd very well. I'm joined by the one and only Jeff K. Jeff, how are you today? Thanks for being on the show.
I'm good, Dane. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, we are super excited to have you. And I just kind of wanted to run through some questions with you, maybe give some more insight about your position within the Stars and within the Stars organization. Can you kind of lay out for us kind of how you got to the role of PA announcer for the Dallas Stars?
Sure. Well, my journey with the Stars began way back when I was a season ticket holder for the team. You got to go back to the year the Stars moved to Dallas in 93, 94. And, I'd been working in radio at that time at 94.5 The Edge, which maybe your parents were old enough to remember. But, having been a hockey fan and an early adapter to the Dallas Stars when they first moved to town, I was kind of an ally in the media for the Stars and a fan of talking about Stars hockey on the air and being a season ticket holder. I had a good relationship with the team. So when the team moved into the new building, the American Airlines Center, there was talk about maybe bringing me in to consult the music at that time. And then around 2005, I took over as the music director, spent a couple of seasons doing that. And then the team decided they wanted to try to maybe dip their toes into the waters of having an in-game host. So what I did was the music director / in-game host position. I did both of those jobs for a while. And then I became solely the in-game host for a couple of seasons. And then with the fans in the arena, kind of being comfortable with who I was and hearing my voice on a regular basis inside American Airlines Center, when the team's longtime public address announcer, Bill Ollerman, retired after 18 seasons. I guess they just felt it was a natural fit to move me into that position as the public address announcer. So this is actually my 10th season now as the public address announcer with the Stars.
That's incredible. 10 seasons is a long time, but it sounds like that you really enjoy the position, and I know the fans enjoy your presence as well. What was it kind of like last season with obviously the pandemic limiting the number of fans in the arena? What was it like? Was there anything different about the way you had to do things, or just kind of how the atmosphere felt from your point of view with kind of the odd season that was the last NHL season?
Yeah, I mean, of course, it was bittersweet. I mean, on one hand, I feel like, Dallas was very lucky as we were one of the few franchises in the league that were able to have fans in the building. But on the other hand, it was only about 4,000, 3,000 at times. And, you could definitely tell the absence of atmosphere in the arena without the fans. And, prior to the pandemic, I had one of the best seats in the building at center ice. And, the pandemic caused us to move away from center ice. And, still to this day, there are some I would say, COVID protocols in place with the league. And, the public address announcers are still not at center ice. So that's the difference into this season. I'm still located where I was last season, and that is atop the lower bowl. I'm kind of over by Shippey, by the music desk, the audio console in section 110, right at the top of section 110. So I'm still in the bowl. I'm still able to kind of feel the vibe of the crowd, which is fun, but, long ways away from center ice.
Certainly, certainly. But I know that the Stars fans are glad that you're still able to be in the building, and it seems that, like you said, that you still have a good feel for kind of how the crowd is feeding off of the game and what's happening. Just maybe a little different, being in a different position. And kind of going off of that, what would you say that your schedule kind of looks like on a game day? Because I think it's easy for Stars fans to just take in what you and the rest of the crew are feeding the audience, whether that's music or announcements or the intermission games on the ice. But what does kind of the schedule look like for you on game day in preparation to do PA announcement for a Dallas Stars game?
So I usually get the script from my director of game presentation, Kevin Harp, sometime early in the afternoon, and that gives me enough time to go over it. I will cut and paste it into my iPad. We do have a program called ShowFlow, which is a pretty cool program that allows us to edit the script on the fly. But I will put the script in my iPad. And in doing so, I can see what, if any, are some different aspects of that particular night's presentation, whether we've got a ceremonial puck drop or we've got a particular player that's going to be spotlighted. But for the most part, what I'm looking for is making sure that, I get what I need to say, and I know when to say it, and I know when certain announcements need to be made. And then once I've got all that in my iPad, then I've got to do my radio show. I'm on the air every weekday from 3 to 7 on Lone Star 92.5, which is the classic rock station here in Dallas-Fort Worth. And most times my shift ends with just enough time for me to get down to the arena, park my car, get into the lower bowl there, get into my PA chair, plug in the iPad and fire things up. And, then we start doing the show. The show begins about an hour before face-off. We've got warm-ups 30 minutes prior. Then I'll get that evening's starters called to me by the public relations staff. And, of course, I'll have to plug that in quickly and get that ready for the team introductions. And, once the puck drops, it's showtime.
Yeah, man, it sounds like they keep you busy going from radio to the arena, because I know the games normally start 7:30, or sometimes a little later. We'll be continuing this conversation with Jeff K here on Locked On Stars. But before we move on, I want to take a moment and tell you about some of our sponsors, starting with BetOnline. BetOnline is back and better than ever. All eyes are on the gridiron as teams are back on for another football season. As always, BetOnline is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. With the new updated site and interface and even more odds, props, and contests, BetOnline continues to be the number one source for everything football. Head to the website to use your mobile device. Sign up today to receive a 50% welcome bonus for your first deposit. Don't forget to use our promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From football, basketball, boxing, to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers still available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet all of your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. Today's episode is also brought to you by Get Upside. My listeners are making up to 25 cents for every gallon of gas every time they fill up. Just download the free Get Upside app in the App Store or on Google Play right now. Use promo code HOCKEY and get up to 25 cents per gallon on your first fill up. That's up to 50 cents cash back. Don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using Get Upside. Just download the app for the free and use promo code HOCKEY to get up to 50 cents a gallon cash back on your first tank. Some people who drive a lot are making as much to $200 to $300 a month in cash back, and there's no catch at all. The cash gets back added right to your account, and you can cash out anytime to your bank account or PayPal or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Get Upside app and use promo code HOCKEY to get up to 50% per gallon cash back on your first tank. That's code HOCKEY on the Get Upside app. Jumping back into today's conversation with Jeff K, the PA announcer for the Dallas Stars. Jeff, kind of the next question I have for you, just kind of picking your brain a little bit on your 10 years of experience as working with the Dallas Stars in this capacity. What is your favorite memory while working as the PA announcer for the Stars, whether that's a game or a particular moment, or just something that happened in the arena? What is your favorite memory kind of in this role as PA announcer for the Stars?
Wow. Well, I think what immediately jumps out to me was being able to, work the Winter Classic. 2020 got off to such promise on January 1st. we weren't going to let Corey Perry ruin our afternoon. But,
That's
yeah,
right.
I mean, just getting to say Stars win in front of 86,000 fans was, a memory that I'll cherish forever. I mean, that's at the top of the list. As far as like something that happened inside American Airlines Center, was one of my first seasons in the PA chair when I got to be there when Jamie Benn scored enough points in the final game of the season to win the Art Ross Trophy. And while the other, officials in the penalty box area were very stoic and remained very calm, you can see pictures of me behind, Jamie's hugging all the other guys on the ice. And I'm there behind the glass, banging on the glass like, you did it, Jamie. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I'm not supposed to act like a fan, and I had to sit back down. But yeah, I mean, being in the building for those big moments like that. And Mike Modano's retirement ceremony obviously was another one because being a fan of the team since they moved to Dallas since '93. I mean, Mike was my, favorite player from the minute the Stars came to Dallas. So that obviously meant a lot to me. But yeah, the Winter Classic by far was the best moment as the public address announcer for the Dallas Stars. Hopefully we'll get to a Stanley Cup pretty soon.
Hopefully so.
Yeah, I mean, when the Stars were in the Cup and the bubble, I didn't get to do PA because the bubble folks got to do PA. However, I will say that the league allowed each team to send audio drops of the goal songs, the penalty songs, and the public address announcers doing the power play call. So if you were watching the Stars during the Cup run from Edmonton, you might have noticed the old Jeff K power play call. So I thought that was kind of fun. I was there in voice, but I wasn't there physically.
Ooh, maybe that's what the team needed to get to that to hold the Stanley Cup trophy at center
I'm
ice.
sure that's exactly what it was. Yes.
They were missing the Jeff K presence right there at center ice.
They did say, and I believe it might have been Tyler Sagan that said, they did really appreciate having the little, the home cooking elements during their Cup run. We had Selena recorded doing the anthem, and you had my voice announcing the power play. So the guys definitely noticed.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I'm sure for them, as long as they were away in Edmonton in the bubble, making it all the way to the Stanley Cup final, that they were missing all kinds of parts of home. And so I'm sure it was nice even to just hear a little bit of sounds of home. And even though you guys couldn't be there and us, the fans and watchers of the Dallas Stars couldn't be there, I'm sure that they could feel the love and appreciation all the way here in Texas or wherever Stars fans are at, all the way in Edmonton. And kind of moving on, kind of in the same ballpark of questioning, but what is your favorite part about the job of being the PA announcer?
Wow. I mean, honestly, the favorite part for me is being able to kind of be the conduit between the action on the ice and the fans. Like I said, I started out as a season ticket holder. I'm a fan of this team first, sometimes to a fault, because I'll wear my fandom on my sleeve. I have to be careful about what I tweet every now and then. I don't want things to get me in trouble. I'm not saying that I'm critical or whatever, but I am a fan first of all. And so to have this privilege of being able to be that vocal conduit between what they see on the ice and what they hear is something I'll forever cherish, because it's, like I said, it's a privilege to do this job. And I still have to pinch myself to think that I'm the in-arena voice of this team that I love, that I've always loved since the minute they came to Dallas. So, to pinpoint one specific thing about the job, it's just, having the responsibility of being able to vocalize what fans are seeing in the arena.
Certainly. And kind of, I guess this kind of loops back to the start of our questions as well. But what was it like getting to watch this fan base kind of grow once they moved to Dallas? Because obviously they moved from the northern part of the country when they were the North Stars and then coming to Texas. What was it like as a fan, but then also moving into working with the team? What was it like watching the fan base grow? Did it start out really big and like where it is now with obviously all the passionate fans? Or was it kind of a slow build up into, the Cup runs of the late 90s?
Well, I mean, you got to go back. If you go back to the beginnings, obviously there was no NHL team in Dallas. So, the folks that brought the team to Dallas were very, very smart about selling this sport as football on skates. That's really what they did in the first couple of seasons. And guys like Shane Churla and Darian Hatcher, the physical guys, the tough guys, were really the guys that connected with Stars fans first. And then we got to know more of the superstars, the Mike Modanos, the Brett Hulls. I mean, obviously, getting to the playoffs helps. Obviously, winning the cup in '99 went a long way to cement the fan base. And now we've had 2 generations of people that have grown up with Dallas Stars hockey, and we're seeing a lot of kids that all they know is Dallas Stars hockey, and they play hockey. When the Stars first moved here, there weren't but a handful of rinks in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and not a lot of them were hockey legal rinks. You had ice skating rinks at malls. That's about all you had when the Stars first moved to town. Now you've seen with the Stars centers around DFW. You've got guys like Blake Coleman, Stanley Cup winner with Tampa Bay, who's a Plano kid who got into hockey because he was a Stars fan, going to Stars games as a kid. So I think we've come full circle. What would I like to see to take the fandom to the next level? Well, I would say that the selling out the Winter Classic was definitely a step in the right direction. There was some trepidation when it was announced that Dallas would get the Winter Classic, and oh my gosh, it's at the Cotton Bowl. Do you realize how many tickets we're going to have to sell to, maybe we can get it half full. And as we get closer, the Cotton Bowl sold out in like the first month. So that was a great sign. I think this team needs a good long playoff run, and they need to have a long playoff run in front of their home fans to take it to the next level. And honestly, I feel like this team is better equipped this season, knock on wood, than they have been in a long time.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you. And I agree that this team does look poised to make it to the playoffs and also just make a lot of noise there. And certainly I think the fans will be very excited for that. And that's one thing I love about this fan base. And even in my early days of doing this podcast, of just seeing how passionate they are, but then even, bringing in the younger generations. It's always nice to see families and young kids at the games to start growing the love for hockey early on in their lives. Coming up next, after the next break, we'll get to talk a little bit about the Stars season. I'm talking about the potential that they have and how they can make it to the playoffs. But I want to tell you first about another sponsor of today's episode, and that is Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts that you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. Their prices are reliably low for every single customer. They have everything that you could possibly need for your car: brake parts, tail lamps, oil, and even new carpet, just to name a few items that they have. Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. You can go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Write Locked On in their "How did you hear about us" box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com. And to close out today's episode of Locked On Stars with Jeff K, we're going to talk a little bit, and we were hinting at it a little bit in the last segment, about how we think the Stars will do this season. Obviously, the Stars are picking up where they've been early on in the preseason, picking up some nice wins against Arizona on Sunday night, as well as a win against the St. Louis Blues on Tuesday night. And Jeff, how do you see the Stars performing this season, and how far do you think they'll go? Where do you think their season will end with this roster that's now healthy and with a lot of young talent on it?
Well, I think the Stars, first of all, like we said before the break, I think the Stars need to stay healthy, first of all. I think the fact that they missed playoffs, while it was a bummer, might have been a blessing in disguise, because they had a lot of guys that needed to heal up. Alexander Radulov, Rope Hintz, Tyler Seguin, the main three that definitely needed a little extra time. Then you've got Ben Bishop. His future still remains uncertain, but a lengthy offseason obviously will go a long way to helping Ben Bishop if we ever get to see him back on the ice. I think it was a genius move to pick up Braden Holtby. You saw last night what Braden Holtby can do between the pipes, as he was the number one star in the win against the Blues. What I really love about this team is they've actually got some depth now. For a while, it's, what are they going to do past, Seguin, Ben and Radulov? Well, now you've got Rope Hintz, you've got Jason Robertson, you've got Guryanov, you've got Kiviranta, you've got a real strong young group of guys that are going to lead this team into the next generation. You know, you've even got Jake Ottinger, who looks really solid in goal too. So, you know, there was a time where maybe there was some concern about the future of this team, but now I feel like you've got a great combination of a solid veteran group, and you've also got, you know, a really good young core that are ready to take the next step. Oh, and I didn't even mention Joe Pavelski either. Oh, and Ryan Suter either. You know, so I feel like, you know, it's almost an embarrassment of riches. But again, as we've seen with the NHL, you know, it's a long season. Guys are bound to get dinged up. So hopefully the Stars can weather the injuries. Can't get any worse than it was last season. And I think if the Stars can, you know, start strong and, you know, not constantly try to chase a playoff spot, I feel like that takes a lot out of this team. If they're constantly trying to get into a playoff spot, I feel like if they start strong, they can maintain. You know, my buddy Bruce Levine from Sports Radio 96.7 and 1310 The Ticket, who does the pre and post game show with Owen, he always says, if you're in a playoff spot by Thanksgiving, you're doing well. And I think I'll stick to that. You know, if the Stars can be in the playoffs by Thanksgiving, that'll give them, you know, some stability. Hold that till they get to playoffs. You're going to get a nice break in January with the Olympics this year. And then, you know, hopefully they'll make a nice run. I don't want to do any predictions because predictions always come back to haunt me. But as we saw with the bubble, anything's possible with this team. You just got to get in. And I definitely think the Stars will get in.
Absolutely. I that is my belief as well. Despite how challenging the Central Division might be, I think it's a good thing that Dallas gets to prove themselves in that way, because if they're able to win in this Central Division, I think that will prepare them for what could come in the playoffs. And I do want to remind Stars fans, even as much as we hope for a strong start, you look back at the 2019-2020 season with the kind of slow start that they had, and then it obviously ended with them in the Stanley Cup Finals. So as much as we want to see a strong start, you know, you don't want to lose hope too early on. But I know the Stars will have their work cut out for them with quite a few road games before they're able to be at home on October 22nd versus the Kings in Los Angeles. But that's all we have for today's episode of Locked On Stars. Thank you for making the Locked On Stars podcast your first listen of the day. Now go make your second listen of the day, the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Show. Host Scott Cullen leans in on his decades of fantasy hockey insight and experience every day to help you be the expert of your fantasy league. It's free and available on all platforms. Be sure to tune in to tomorrow's episode as we wrap up this final full week of preseason action. And then next week, we will be looking ahead to the regular season. Jeff, thank you so much for joining the show today. I know I appreciated it. I'm sure that the listeners, the Stars faithful that are listening, appreciate you joining the show, and always great to hear your voice, whether it's in the arena or just on this podcast. Jeff, you can find him on Twitter at JeffK_stars. And Jeff, where can people find you on the radio? I know you said it earlier, but just a reminder again for the people
Sure.
where we can find you.
Yep. So I do afternoons on the classic rock station in Dallas, Fort Worth. The name of the station is Lone Star 92.5. It's at 92.5 on the FM dial. The call letters are KZPS. You can stream us on the free iHeart app. And tune in. I'm on 3 to 7, and I'm playing all your favorite classic rock jams. And I just want to say thanks for having me on the podcast today, Dane. I've been a fan of the podcast for a while, so I really appreciate it, man. Go Stars.
Absolutely. Always an honor to have you on the show. Thank you, Stars fans, for listening. Thank you, Jeff, for being on the show. Tune in tomorrow, listeners, and we will wrap up this final full week of preseason, looking ahead to opening night versus the New York Rangers. Have a great day, Stars fans.